Welcome into another episode of the Weekly Cho. I'm Jonathan Goudeau, aka JG Smooth, joined by my co-host, former UCO All-MIAA H-back Daunte McGee. First, we want to apologize for not having an episode up last week. We were actually about to record like half an hour before, and both our internets decided they wanted to go out. So we were not able to record, unfortunately, because we had a good show lined up, but that is the reason why. So you blame Cox Internet and don't blame us for this one. But since it has been a few weeks, it has been a very tough few weeks. Obviously losing the cup and then the second half debacle on Saturday. I've said a good amount on the last two shows, but open the floor up to you, Dante, as to what are you feeling? What are your thoughts after the past 8 quarters of UCO football?
Just it's definitely not what they have put on tape and what they've shown any game before these past 2 weeks. It's just a lot of miscues and kind of getting back to the old habit of just missed opportunities. You can see in both games that even in the midst of both those missed opportunities in both of those games, we were still within arm's reach of being able to tie the game, win the game, take over the game. But we just kind of those old habits that we had early in the year just wasn't able to get it done, was in the right position to make plays, and then just kind of let things slip through our hands. So obviously this is not where you want to be at this point in the season. There's still a whole lot to play for as far as the guys in the locker room, and then just trying to finish things off with a winning record. But first and foremost is you just got to put these past couple weeks behind you. You don't got time to lick your wounds or sit and grovel about things. It's like you just got to put your head down, go to work, because if you felt the last 2 weeks were just so negative and unbearable, this thing could slip and get even worse with the last two games that we have. And it doesn't matter what their record is at this point. You're playing quality, tough opponents late in the season, and so obviously you gotta bring it week in and week out. But yeah, there is no time to feel sorry for yourself. I think we still have a good football team. We just haven't really played consistently to the potential that we have. And so I still have confidence that they can come out here and get a win this next week. But yeah, these past 2 weeks it was a pretty tough showing for sure.
I think what was most deflating, like I know after the NSU game, right? Obviously there was pain. I felt like us two, a good majority of the guys that I saw, Noah West, Lane, Marlowe, Kobe, Noah Dobson. I felt like the vast majority of them, like, yeah, you don't want to lose the NSU. Obviously, I mean that is the standard. But I felt like, I don't know. I felt like it wasn't. I don't know. To me, it wasn't that bad because I know we had talked about this at length after the fact, but like, right, we were overdue to probably lose the game. We probably should have lost to them last year. We got our 10 straight wins in there. And at the end of the day, I mean, I felt like NSU just made more plays than us in that football game. I felt like it wasn't like we just lied down and like I got ran on. So to me, seeing what we saw Saturday after that was like we took a massive step back because we get up in the game 17-0, and then it's like the wheels just fall off. Like we don't feel the opening kickoff in the second half. We have Jets unfortunate pick, right? We don't take advantage of the short fields in the first half. Like it just was a lot of things that maybe we saw that, against Permian Basin and Pitt, which makes sense. It's week 1 and 2, but like we were week 9. Like I don't like some of this. We're having regression. What kind of should the should the message be these last two games from the leaders in that locker room? Because you're in a similar position in 2022. Going into that senior day game, you all were fighting to get that winning record. And I feel like here, these last two games, they're fighting to get that winning record. What do you think the message should be from the seniors in the locker room, um, to the team, to everybody about how to finish off the rest of the season?
I think the message just needs to be remember your why and who you're doing this for. It shouldn't just only be for yourself. It should be, multitude of people that you have in your lives or even people in the locker room that you're doing this for. At this point, you need to be playing for other people and not just yourself. But then also just be completely blunt about things and just let it be known to the guys that if you're not in here with a fresh mindset, if you're not here with positivity, if you're not here to encourage and to get people better, and if you don't think that there's still a whole lot to play for with the rest of the season, or if you have any doubts about transferring, or if you don't think that for whatever reason that you're not going to win the game or whatever, then don't show up, because at this point it's all hands on deck. I mean, it should have been that already, but it's all hands on deck. And if you're not working towards just getting a win, no matter who gets it done, how you get it done, good, bad, ugly, whatever, if you're not working towards that same common goal, then you just don't even need to show up. You'll be doing the team a better favor by doing that and just excusing yourself, because like I said, you're still playing for a winning season. That's always something big and positive to have. You got guys in the locker room that put in a lot of time, effort, sacrifice that they've had all over from all of the years that you're playing for. I mean, if you don't connect or resonate with any of those guys, then play for the people that have been in your life and have gone you to this point with things. So, um, you just got to find a reason to continue to do what you're doing, even though you haven't had the success that wanted or envisioned for the season. But the last thing that you need is for people to hang their heads or already kind of check out on the season, because there's still a lot to play for, even with the 2 games that are left.
Right now, as I mentioned before we came on, I talked to a few of the guys, and they admitted that Saturday that wasn't the level or standard of UCL football, and I'm already glad that there's accountability there. But on the flip side of that, though, how can how can they not, like, I want to say, like, press the issue, but maybe you come out and you're, I don't know. You don't want to, like, overcorrect to the point where you're playing bad or worse. Like, how can you kind of rectify that, but not overcompensate? To the point where you start hurting yourself or hurting the team.
I think just blunt honesty. You just really have to look at film and just look at where not only the plays that we missed or, people not getting the job done at, but then also look at the missed opportunities with things. Because again, it's like, say if we continue a drive that, we got a 3-and-out on, or we catch a touchdown that, we didn't convert on, or, whatever. Now you're looking at all the different what ifs within the game. And so that's just a part of it. You got to be critical, and you got to take all the good and bad that comes with them. But you also want to find that happy medium of, you don't want to get so tight and like have everyone so tense and walking on eggshells that they're so afraid to make mistakes that they're not out there playing freely. You want to give that sweet middle spot, as far as like people playing freely and they have the grace to make mistakes, because that is the game. But then also, given how things have gone, it's like there have just been too many to try to overcome once you get into the game. And they've also been happening at critical points as well too, where we haven't been able to overcome them on Saturday. So it's a very delicate, touchy, situation to find, because obviously, people emotions are high. People want to win and people are competitive, and it's just their nature with things, that you don't want to cause so much friction that guys button heads with one another and that they're losing sight on their goals. But at the same time, it's like you can't just not address some of the things that have happened, because I think it was Kearney went on a 28-0 uh, scoring streak without us scoring. So it's like you can look at that a multitude of ways, whether defense not getting stops, offense putting defense in unfortunate positions, offense not converting, offense just not um, getting points on their drives. I mean, there was turnovers and we weren't able to convert on that. Then you could look at the miscues in the kicking game. So I mean, it's just all over the place. So that 28 to 0 streak that went on for the second and third quarter, that is all three phases of the game. It's not just solely on one. So I mean, there's enough blame to go around, but you just have to be brutally honest and critical with yourself and what was put out there.
And to me, I felt like it wasn't. I felt like it was more, and I know you're kind of big on the, like coaches can only do so much. At the end of the day, it falls on the player, and I really felt like that Kearney game was a good example because from what I could tell, I didn't feel like it was anything like schematically or play calling that we did that hurt our chances. I mean, I think we saw in the first half defensively, we had like 3 straight drives where we forced 3 turnovers. We held them to only 7 points in that first half. So I feel like if that's the result from a schematic standpoint, we're doing something right. And then offensively, you saw we did have those 3 scoring drives. So again, I feel like we're doing something right. But at some point, the execution there lapsed. And like I said on this week's episode, it seems to me the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's team is like when plays need to be made, they're not being made. Like not everybody is raising their level of play or stepping up. Like there were several examples last year, people raising their play, whether it be Kobe or Zane or Hunter or Madison or whoever have you throughout the course of that season that stepped up when plays needed to be made and made the plays. And I feel like we're not seeing that this year. How can from a perspective of a player in that situation, like how are you able to do that though? Because like I know for you all, like say in 2022 against Northwest Missouri, right? Like against Emporia, even against Central Missouri, I felt like when push come to shove, there were plays that were made because people stepped up. How can you kind of get that from a player, and as a player what can you do to hold each other accountable in that regard?
So I think it really just comes from confidence first and foremost, and confidence is built throughout the week in practice. Whenever you get the playbook and the new plays that are added throughout the week, just executing them with perfection to where you not only feel confident going into the game, but you know that this play is going to hit regardless of what the defense does because what they've shown on film, what they've shown weeks past, all that. So it starts with confidence and really just breeding that confidence within yourself. You have to it's always going to start with film. You have to envision. You got to really believe and buy into the schematics on the game plan of things. But then two, it's like you really have to, whenever it comes time for your opportunities in practice, be so intentional with it. That's why they said you got to take game reps in practice, so that when the game actually comes, it's not the first time you're seeing things. So it's like when it comes to practice, after you get the schematics on things, now you have to run it at 100%, so you can already get that feel, so you can start to build the confidence within yourself. And then even one thing that I did was, and I've heard of other players doing it too, but if because there are times where your confidence can get shaky at times, start down yourself at times. It's happened to me in my career, and I'm sure it happens to all players. But one thing people will do is, hey, if you need to go back and look at some old film, some like highlight tapes of yourself, really just seeing yourself making plays, it's no different. It's just at a higher level of things. It's like you have the ability to make those plays happen. You have to believe and have the confidence of that you can make them happen. And then at that point, it's really just executing to where you're not even really having to think so much. It's just natural reaction. It's just instant. Like you don't even have time to really like know really at the time what you're doing. You're just executing. You're just like on autopilot at that point. So I think it really just starts with confidence as far as being able to raise yourself to the next level, no matter what's going on in the game. You have to have that confidence in your foundation at first.
And now because we missed last week, so well in terms of of NSU, what kind of stood out to you the most about that game? Any takeaways, moments, players, plays that stuck out to you? Anything from that NSU game?
I felt as though they were a lot more physical than years past. Obviously, there have been, plays being made and big hits from both sides or whatever, but physicality is not just the big hits, it's the over and over repeat. It's mainly in the trenches. And I felt as though that's where majority of the battle was, was at the line of scrimmage. I felt as though their D line and their O line that they had was by far the best that they've had in years, but they were also pretty physical and violent with our guys as well too. So I think that's kind of where it started at, and then I think just the amount of athletes that they had on the perimeter on both sides. I mean, because typically, in years past, you would see, okay, they might have one or two guys that are athletic, but they're not able to get the ball or really have that big of an impact on the game. Well, it's like they had an even more number of those, and they did have an impact on the game. So I felt as though they were just all around better players, first and foremost. But then also, like I said, within a rivalry game, I mean, you didn't really see um, a lot of, just unnecessary penalties, people losing their heads, just playing dumb, which that's something that can tend to happen in these type of games, and especially with the situation of the recent history of it, it's like it would have been very easy for NSU at any point to have guys get ejected or getting too caught up in the moment. They didn't do that, so I think that's definitely kudos to the head coach and what he has going on there. So I mean, it's really just a 9-day difference as far as that NSU team. I feel like they were better coached than they've been years in the past, and I think that they just had a larger number of better athletes and just better players as a whole. I actually got to talk to their All-American tight end in the midst of all the kind of chaos afterwards. But just telling him like, hey, like I've watched him a little bit, respect his game as a tight end, actually blocking and not just wanting to catch the ball and run routes and things like that. And so just giving him his kudos and things, just talking kind of tight end stuff with him. Um, so yeah, I think it's just a all around better team. I think even though UCO lost, that was still a very good game. I mean, if you look at the stats, if you were there in person, it really could have gone either way. And it didn't feel as though it was ever going to be a blowout or really one team just had the control the entire time of the game. So that's honestly what you want from a rivalry game. And unfortunately, UCO, we was just on the short end of the stick on this time. So, I mean, they're just an all around better team now.
Now I'm gonna get back to my point in a minute, but now because you brought up the chaos, now we gotta point out the fact now in the middle of the melee, I'm standing there and I just see Daunte run full steam. Now again, he has on a hoodie and some sweats. He's running into a full pile of people with helmets and shoulder pads. And I was like, oh boy, I hope he is okay. Like, I know as soon as he saw Dom run, I just see Daunte just chase after him. And I was like, all right, see, I'm not gonna go in there because I don't have helmet or pads on, and I'm also not like 6'5", 220, so maybe it might not be best for me. But you just go in there and I give the man credit. I saw Daunte emerge. He had Dom with him, so I mean no harm, no foul. But like, did you just were you just running on pure adrenaline? Like I'm just like you ran full speed.
No, that was not adrenaline, and I'll be the first to let you know that these athletes are in their tip-top shape, and I'm not there anymore. So that was definitely using my brain right there. Because first off, I'm not finna throw punches. I didn't do that when I played. Like I'm not finna throw punches at someone wearing a helmet. And then secondly, I'm not a player, so that's not my fight. The fight's had in the game. So yeah, that was not my thought process at all. But I was, kind of there and did see the after game theatrics, I guess you could call it. And my main thing was just making sure that nothing happened because at that point, if anyone throws a punch and there's obviously so cameras like going on, like video, whatever, it's like if it's, guys are throwing punches or whatever happens, you could look at big time suspension for people. And so that was my first thought process was don't let Dom get suspended for anything. I mean, especially during his senior year. I mean, you don't want to miss any of your games and how important and vital he is to the offense and the team. It's like, yeah, definitely don't want that to happen. But the rest of everything happening, I mean, I'm not gonna fault our guys for their reaction to things. I think you seen what happened, but at the end of the day, it's like you can't let people disrespect you to that type of level. You know what I mean?
No. Facts. Though, no, I 100%, I 100% agree. I had some back and forth with some NSU people on their point of view. Is they were keeping receipts and this, that, and the third, but like I will agree to disagree on that front. It's just not worth it, you know. But yeah, I saw that, and then so after Daunte's playing Peacemaker, I did see at some point he's like helping Casey take equipment into the locker room, and then at the very end, man's like helping console people. I was like, well, Daunte just jack of all trades here. Man was a reporter, he was a peacemaker. He was a cleanup helper, and now he's down in sort of the crowd. I was like, the versatility of this man is just insane right now. Like I'm trying to find him, he's just all over doing everything. Like we gotta put the man on the payroll here. Like,
no, I mean, like that's just me still having a connection to a lot of the guys still in the locker room, and having played for Dooley, that definitely helps stay connected with guys. As far as with Casey, I actually didn't get to play I didn't go off season with him. I didn't play any amount of time with him. He came in right after I graduated, but at the same time, I've gotten to know Casey pretty well, and that's one of my guys too. So at the end of the game, I'm not gonna not help any of my guys out, you know what I mean? So at that point, he was just doing his regular thing. He didn't ask for help. I'm like, I don't care if you ask. Like, here, let me just help you out. Just run these in. It's just one little small thing just to help out. I mean, you're never too good to help out your people. So I mean, it was literally just putting the headphones in the box and carrying that up there. So yeah, I was just helping my guy out with that.
and I felt like post game, I felt like we were doing a lot of, I don't want to say like damage control, but like, it was like, it was weird because it felt similar, honestly, to Pitt State last year, where it's like they took it harder than I think most of us did. Like obviously we weren't happy that we lost the game, right? But like I think there was like legitimate like sadness and like pain that like they just like I don't know like let down a whole bunch of people, and I felt like we were trying to like reassure them like no, you lost to a good football team. Like I get the connotation of NSU in the past 15 years. Okay, yeah, I get when you say the name, right? What comes to mind? But like you have mentioned though, and this is the best team they've had in like 15 years. I mean, just the eye test alone was significantly better. And I've said since this past off season, like there's a good chance they could win this football game. I mean, they should have won last year. I know they're going to be better. They have a better quarterback that's not as turnover prone. They play solid football. Do they wow you? Not necessarily, but I mean, they play sound football. They have a really good weapon and McKinney Jr. They've got some playmakers, as you mentioned, with their tight end, and they got a couple of receivers. Their defense is not bad. I mean, like they're a solid football team. So like I felt like there's no shame in losing to this version of NSU. And I get, it could be the last cup for a while and you don't want to lose it. But I honestly felt like at least from who I talked to, there wasn't that feeling of like I don't know, of like letting people down, if that makes sense. Like I talked to the guys and like sure they were they weren't happy that we lost, but I thought they understood we lost to a for a good team. You know what I mean? So, like, when you're kind of in those situations, I don't know if you ever been in that situation before where there's been a loss that's like really, really hurt you. Um, how do you kind of like move past that? Because obviously, there was a game to be played the following week. So how do you kind of like compartmentalize that and move on and try to pick up the pieces and regain some kind of positive thoughts, heading into the next week?
Truth be told, this is probably not the best answer, but I did not have a whole lot of success in football prior to UCO. So it's just really one of those things that, I won't say I got accustomed to losing. I just kind of got better about how I express my frustrations when it comes to losing. And because when you're on a team where you're just kind of limited athletic and talent, and then going up against some of the best teams in the state, it's really just one of those things. It's like you gotta like have a quick memory about it. And then for myself, I was like, I can only do so much, and I can only control what I can control and handle what I can handle. So that's just something that I kind of carried when I got to UCO, and I think I even got sharper about things as far as doing your job, treating it more like a business. It doesn't matter who's in front of you. It doesn't matter what you got going on, anything. It's like you got a job to do and it needs to get done, or else you're about to get replaced. And so for me, there were definitely times where, in college, I didn't have my best game and we won, or I had, a great game, but we didn't win. So it's definitely one of those things that for me, I'd rather take a team win over, personal accolades any day. There's definitely some games where it definitely just hurt your heart a little bit more. But I hate to say it's like you don't got time to feel sorry for yourself, because no one else is feeling sorry for you. You got another good team rolling in this week, and they're looking at you like, okay, like we have a shot. Like this is our chance. Like we might be able to pull one over. And so now it's going to be on how the team responds to things, as far as not having the best record that they thought we were going to have. Kind of not having the best outing, especially on Saturday. So you really just have to have that reset button. It looks different for everyone, but whatever it looks like, you need to find it very quickly. I do want to reiterate kind of what you said. I mean, I didn't feel it, and I don't felt as though no one else felt that there was a shame in losing to NSU, because at some point, one of the two things was going to happen. Either A, UCO was just going to get worse as a team and football program to where NSU beats them, or NSU was going to get better to where now it's more of a competitive game. And I think that's one thing that I said to you, is that I want it to be a competitive game. I don't want it to be just, 82 to 14s every year. Like, yes, it's cool always being your rival. And yes, it's cool, that you got a trophy and we sustained that for 10 years. But it's like at some point, one of those things was going to happen. There was going to be a loss. And I don't think that's really a stain on any of the guys, careers or legacies that they have at UCO. I think it does suck because it is that first one, but at the same time, it's like football is football, and at some point, your rival is going to win. And unfortunately, it happened this year, but it's like at some point it was going to happen. So it's like I don't think the guys should take it that much to heart, or that they've let some of the older guys and alumni down, because that's not how any of them that I've seen it, or any of that I've been around, have seen or looked at it. And kind of like you said, if this was a truly inferior NSU team, then okay, yes, that's more of the letdown right there. But that was a quality NSU team, and they made more plays than UCO did at the end of the day. So I mean, that's football. You're not going to be able to win all of those games as much as you would like to. But and like I said, it's unfortunate that it was NSU, but at the end of the day, it was going to happen at some point. I don't think that they should, feel too bad about themselves because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be different if like in 2023, right? Okay, now we know how we lost to that NSU team. Okay, then yes, I would 100% agree, because there's no way we should lose to that version of NSU, even though we did almost lose to that version of NSU. And I felt like the fact that we kind of barely won that game people weren't. I wasn't happy that we barely won that game because we were clearly the better football team. But like you pointed out, I mean, there's no shame in losing to this NSU team. And then conversely, Saturday there would have been no shame in losing to Kearney. Again, that's a tough place to play, as you know. That's a very salty bunch. If we didn't blow a 17-0 lead in the football game, what did you see from that game that caught your attention, whether it be plays, players, whatever it have you? What kind of were your biggest takeaways from the Kearney game Saturday?
Oh, I'm gonna start with defense. I felt as though first off they were out there entirely too much. I think that they were forced into just the kind of worst of circumstances, throughout the game. And even with that, they still bowed their neck. They still got turnovers, but which, like I said, that was really the only kind of negative against them as a defense. They got turnovers in the games. They got 3 and outs. They kept UCO in the game as much as they could, and I felt as though obviously that there's plays that could be made here or there, and I think Kearney they made some tremendous plays as well too. I think you can look at some penalties, but for the most part, I would say the defense played a pretty solid, fair game. I think offensively, that's kind of where the struggles were at. More so, I think first off, Jeb was sacked entirely too much. It was under too much pressure. Um, as you've seen for these past 2 years and this year, regardless of who we're playing, if he's able to be comfortable and sit back in the pocket, that is where he is the most precise and deadly at. And Kearney just did a good job about making him try to break the pocket, or I don't know how many rushes he attempted, but just that. Not to mention the hurry ups on top of the, I think it was 4 or 5 sacks that they had. So just that part right there, it's not winning football when you have your quarterback getting sacked that many times in the game. But then also one thing you seen Kearney do was at times they went down to a 5-man defensive front. And this wasn't like a 4th and 1, like goal line, bare front kind of thing. Like they were 5 down in the open field. So that means that they're trying to go man on man with the offensive line, and more times than not, that means you're going to have man on man on the edges with the receivers. So I think one of the other knocks was that I felt as though we just did not win as many balls as we should have for a team that was manning us up how they did. And I think that means that we just have to step up and accept the challenge and come out on top with more of those 50-50 balls. But then, like we said, missed opportunities. There were times we got interceptions on defense, but then we didn't capitalize into a scoring drive. We had turnovers on offense. We threw interceptions, and I think we put the ball on the ground too. Then if you look at the few key drop passes that we had, I mean, it's the right mix of all the wrong stuff that creates kind of what happened on Saturday. You had, I mean, stat wise, it wasn't like we were just completely outgained by Kearney, and it wasn't like they just completely outmatched us. They just capitalized on the opportunities. When they got turnovers, they turned to scoring drives. Whenever they made opportunities for themselves, they converted into longer sustaining drives than what we were able to. So now that means their defense is able to stay fresher too, and our defense was out on the field longer. So I mean, it was a lot of teach tape that can come from this film, but I don't think I'm gonna keep saying it's nothing to get discouraged by, because the opportunities and plays are there to be made. It's just people have got to make those plays.
Right, and I think the frustrating thing or the discouraging thing, at least for me, is like we're game 9 and no one is making those plays. Like I think I have brought the comparison. I was like, I think anybody that objectively could look at this team and say, look at 2022 and say, okay, this is clearly the more talented team. But then you have to ask the question, okay, why was 2022 through 9 games a better football team record wise than this team is? And you go back to, you said the defense was giving them chances. And I felt like, you were there, you played in 2022, right? Offensively, we might not have been the best. But I felt like when the defense did give us short fields, gave us turnovers, I felt like we capitalized off those more times than we have this year. And I felt like we also had maybe more sustained drives than maybe we've had this year. Like, sure, maybe we didn't score on all those drives, but we were at least getting, I feel like, a couple of first downs, give the defense necessary breaks so, they weren't worn down or running on fumes in the fourth. How offensively, like when you get a turnover on short field and you have the momentum, what kind of is the mindset at that point when you take the field to ensure you come away with at least three, but hopefully six on the scoreboard?
I think it really just depends on where, the turnover happens and where, the short field happens at, because realistically, you would really want your turnovers to happen kind of that no man's land, like the in between the 40s and 40s, because at that point, you're not working with the short field to where, like, okay, now your deep passes are kind of, capped off and you can't really get into those. You don't want to get too deep to where it's like, okay, now you're basically having to run, you know, just your power plays and just limiting the offense to, kind of quick quick play actions, rollouts, sprint outs, those sort of things. So it's kind of weird because if ideally you want to get turnovers, but if you can have them in the best possible position, you'd want to be somewhere in between the 40 and 40, so you're working with the shorter field that way. But whenever they do happen, if it's not in those 40-40s, you just have to have this sense of urgency, and almost desperation that we have to make something happen right here, and just having that new fire kind of lit underneath you every time there is a turnover, because it's like, oh, this is a new opportunity that we weren't going to have, but that our defense created for us. So it's like we have to maximize this. But then it's like if you do get a turnover, kind of like how the defense got, where you get an interception in the end zone, or you get it kind of close to your goal line, your mentality needs to kind of flip, because now you want to play smart and you kind of want to play conservative, because if you're too risky, then it's like you can get to a situation where you didn't gain any yardage from the turnover, or you're in a backed up situation trying to punt, whatever. But then it's like you don't want to play too conservative to where it's like if you were just to run 3 quarterback sneaks and only gain like 4 or 5 yards, it's like what really was the benefit of that? Like, you got this turnover, but you're in an unfavorable position to really try to make something of it. So it really just depends on where the turnover happens at. But at the end of the day, there still needs to be this like desperation as far as to maximize the opportunity that was given to you. Because like we've talked about the point swings, it could literally swing from your team, either kicking a field goal or getting a touchdown, or the other team kicking the field goal, getting a touchdown. So just that wide margin of a point swing right there, I mean, you have to capitalize on those.
And now after a performance like this, I go back to 2022, the season opener, right? It didn't go our way. We lost the game. But then you all came out that next week, beat a very good Emporia State team in a very impressive fashion there. What was the mindset then, right? When you had that bad loss, right? And then you come the next week and you're playing a really good team and you do a 180 and get the win. Kind of talk about what the mindset was then that week going into that game that kind of allowed you all to get that win.
I think I'm having to remember, but I think it was that first game. There was just a lot of miscues, missed opportunities. We obviously got shut out as an offense, so I mean, there's not enough blame to be thrown around, because if you get shut out as an offense, that means like you had so many things going wrong. And I'll admit, like reading the wristband, there was times I read like the wrong play, and so it was just a mess that first game. But I felt as though we still, kind of like I talked about earlier, is we still had confidence in ourselves that we have people that can get things done. We were just It was self-inflicted wounds at that point. So it was like, first and foremost, don't stop being yourself. But then secondly, after you stop being yourself, it's like, now Okay, let's actually start to put some things together. Let's start to string some drives together. Okay, like adjustments on the fly. I mean, even in that game, it was still a close game, and we still had miscues on that game. But I felt as though we still had the confidence that we could win even before we stepped on the field. It was just more so that now we just need to make the plays. And then I think going back to that game, it was whenever it was critical times for plays to be made, a fourth down, or we need a third down conversion, or we needed someone to come up with a big grab. I think that we were able to do that. I kind of like you said, it wasn't like we just lit the scoreboard up, or that we just had 500-600 yards of total offense. It was very methodical, and obviously at that point we weren't just as good or productive as an offense as UCO has been, but it's really just converting on your third downs, not turn the ball over, having long sustaining drives. If you can do those three things, more times than not, that's going to lead to points for the team. Or if not that, you're at least going to be able to flip the field and pin the other team's offense deep to where now they have a longer field to work against. And then if you're having those long sustaining drives, then your defense is able to get rest and be able to play a whole lot fresher. And I think that's why that game in particular was such a low scoring game, was because offensively we just like our defense was just better than our offense, but we were able to help the defense out by not having them out on the field for that long.
And that recipe worked. I mean, you all won 6 games in a season where most I think had you all winning like 4 at the most because of that. And then I look at the Fort Hays game this year. I mean, right, that was a vintage 2022 game if I have ever seen one the past couple of seasons. And it was because, like you said, like we didn't score on every drive, but we were able to rest the defense. We were able to give Davis Barr a chance to flip the field. He had, I don't know, about 5, 6 punts that pinned them deep, and we were able to win the football game. Now, I asked that because, we were at a game like Missouri Western that year. We had chances, we didn't capitalize. Right. Well, if we just said against Kearney, we had chances, we didn't capitalize. Obviously, we have 2 games left against teams that, at least on paper, were clearly better than. And the first is Missouri Southern. Now, I know Missouri Southern for a period of time gave us fits. I go back to 2021, right? I think at that time when we lost that game, that was very disheartening because at the time Missouri Southern really wasn't a competitive football team. And record wise this year, numbers wise this year, it's not great. But as we saw in 2022, as we saw in 2023, I mean, they're going to give you everything they have. And so, in your opinion, what do you think it will take to come away with a win Saturday, really against the Missouri Southern team that really doesn't have anything to lose?
For exactly what you just said, they don't have anything to lose, so they're going to come out with a desperation and a newfound energy, especially after dropping 2 games back to back, like how UCO has. So they're definitely looking at this as an opportunity for them to be able to try to sneak a win out, get a win in their win column for the season. So obviously, you can't ever underestimate your opponent, but I would say Missouri Southern, especially, is that team in the MIAA. If you go and look at their record, you're not gonna see these 7, 8, 9, 10 win teams or what have you. But what you are gonna see is that they always consistently had heart, and they always would play to the end of the whistle. They always fought. They never really just gave up. Now, were they outmatched for years? And like you can definitely see that with some of the scores that they have, yes. But as someone that has played against them and year in and year out, that's kind of sort of the identity that they have, is that they are going to fight. And when you have a team that doesn't quit, they are especially dangerous with that. So I think they just need to understand that it doesn't matter what Missouri Southern's record is, because clearly look at our record, and our record isn't as good either. So they're looking at this as an opportunity for them to get a win. But I think UCO needs to look at this as an opportunity to stop like stop digging the hole, to like stop having the self-inflicted wounds and to really turn things around and put out a good showing against a quality football team that is going to come out and fight against you. So this is the type of game that really is a gut check and really is telling you the type of team that you have because, like you said, on paper and like realistically, UCO probably has the better team and better players. But that's one of the great things about football is that it doesn't matter, what the other team has. You can still find ways to, get wins. And I think that's how in 2021, um, Missouri Southern was able to get a win against us because we just played terrible and we had self-inflicted wounds. And, when it came time to make the last play, they made it and they came out of a win while we were at home. So I think that, especially with it being senior day too, um, there just needs to be this overall mindset that you cannot lose this game. You need everyone bought in, checked in. If you're not, then just don't even show up to the facility. Like just do the team a favor and don't even be a distraction that way because this is a team that is capable of beating UCO, and I think that they need to have obviously give them that type of respect, but then also have that kind of having their feet to the fire a little bit too. That they can like UCO can get beat. You can't sit up here and think that there's no way we could lose to this team because this team has been able to come out and get wins before. So you just need to have a mindset that this is a dangerous football team, regardless of what you might see on film and what their record might show. It's a lot different once you get into the game and actually have to put hands on people and you're actually out there with them. So never underestimate your opponent.
And now I'm gonna ask because now obviously it is senior day, and now I know for you there's extra emotion because senior day was the season finale as well. So like that was it for your collegiate career. But kind of going into the final home game, what are the emotions like though? Like how do you first of all, yeah, what are the emotions and how do you control those emotions to go out there and make sure that you're playing your best to help not only you but help the team walk off that field winners for the last time that season?
I think for me, especially by that point in my career, I was able to, not really get caught up in the emotions of the game um, at that point. But it was really just a full circle moment. And fortunately for us, our senior day was our very last game, so we didn't have a week afterwards. But really, just I would honestly say the last 2 weeks, there was just this overall sense within the program of like appreciation, realizing that, it's coming to an end. Yeah, guys were, sad about things, but it was, I mean, I want to be cliche, but it's like don't cry because it's over, cry because it happened. And especially that season, I think we know this the seniors that we had having to, embrace a new culture, new coaching staff while still try to lead, brand new guys and stuff like that. So I felt as though there was just an all around appreciation throughout the program. I felt as though, kind of like I said, guys really were trying to play not only for themselves, but for the seniors who had been here. There was a time whenever in the team meetings where Coach Doral talked about had me and Johnny Bazell talk about some of the facilities and how UCO was when we first got here to where we're at now, and just made it very real that not too long ago things weren't what they are now, and that you not only should be appreciative but grateful, and you need to show it with how you approach football, how you approach practice, and how you play in the game, because there have been a lot of guys who have had very successful All-American, historic careers that had to get out the mud. So it's like definitely when it came to that last week, it was just kind of full circle moment because I remember being the young guy and having just a tremendous group of seniors that even though I didn't get to spend that much time with them because if you think just the summer, fall camp, and then the season, and I was redshirted too, so I didn't really get to spend a whole lot of time with the offensive seniors like that. But even so, just the impact that they had on me and that how tight knit those guys were, it was really something that I tried to mimic once it came to, me being the older guy and trying to lead a group about, caring about someone beyond just when they have the helmet on and stuff. And I think that that's why, I'm able to still have the relationship that I have with Dom, even though Austria is not on the team anymore, him as well, Carney, and then even someone who's not with the program, Carson Ladd, like that. I was one of his groomsmen in his wedding. And so I think that's just something that, kind of talks about the type of tight end room that we had, was that the one that I came into and the type of offense I came into was one that, the older leadership just really were fantastic leaders. And even the ones that didn't get to play as much, they really just held the standard up. And I think especially once it goes into senior day and then for the last game as well, too, you really need to hold the standard for what the upperclassmen have created in their career. But then also it's like you need to be able to take what they've done in their career and what they built and actually build upon it. So I think just going to these last 2 weeks is because like I said, there's just so much more to play for other than just, yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and that was what, at least to me, was like what really got me emotionally after that game, because to the I don't know, to the average person that saw 4-6 versus 5-5, there's nothing to play for. Like, there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, other than for you all to end with the win. But I know the big thing was getting that sixth win, because we had not had a winning season at that point for what, 4 years. So like, I know that was a big point, and just the way that game went. Like, I remember guys like Mosley that had multiple years left, that was just laying it all out there. After you all won that game, kind of just talk about like what was the feeling after that, though. Like, I know the goal was obviously playoffs, and then if it wasn't playoffs, it was a bowl. But still, when that clock hit triple zeros in the fourth, though, you all won and you got that sixth win. But then also, like, that was also the end of your collegiate career. So like, what were the emotions post game? Like, what was that like for you all after that Central Missouri game?
The emotions were at an all-time high. I didn't cry. I was able to hold it together, but I did cry earlier in the week. But it was really just putting things into perspective, because I started football when I was 7, and because I took my extra year, I was 24 by the time the season ended. So I spent 17 years of my life every single year playing football, and that now that's kind of coming to an end. It's kind of like, I did it. Like, as far as the guys I started playing football with in little league, middle school, high school, there's not really a whole lot of people that even get to the college level, let alone last the 4 or 5 years that they're there. But then to, be a starter, to, go to be there for 6 years, to be a captain, to have all those things happen. And like I said, I did not have a whole lot of success in football before I got to UCO. And even though in the middle part we really weren't as successful as the beginning, there was still a lot more evolving that I had as a player and as a person I was had. So when it finally came to an end, and because I have younger siblings, so they like to let me know how old I am all the time. But one of them was like, Daunte, like, you've played football over half your life. Da da da. Like, quick math, they're like, it's going to take you till you're 34 before half of your life you played football and the other half you didn't. And so whenever they said that to me, it was just like, that's when it kind of put into perspective that I'm like, okay, like, I can be at ease with my career, because at like at that point, overwhelmingly majority of it has been spent in football. And I can say, especially with how that season went, I didn't have any regrets, because I look at my career and it's like, yes, I was able to have personal accolades, but I was a part of winning teams. We won bowl games. Could have had rings if it wasn't for other people's decisions, but I digress. So had bowl game wins and could have had rings with that. No, we didn't win conference, but we were able to have big time upsets. We beat ranked teams and stuff. We upset people's homecomings. We were able to win on senior nights. Um, just seeing the evolution of the program with things. And then once it came time to being the leader, investing in the younger guys to where it's more than just football and really having to be a leader. And especially with the age gap that I had with my group, I felt like it was even more especially hard to where, just trying to connect with those guys and bring them along and stuff. But really afterwards, just like being and seeing everyone, it was, I don't even know the word or the emotion to describe it, because I was very relieved with things and at peace with it, but I was also very proud with, the guys I was able to connect with, especially that last year. And I felt like, I mean, and even a weird feeling was kind of just like a, damn, I wish I would have invested more into people sooner in my career instead of just kind of taking a backseat, just, kind of letting things happen, playing a more active role and really just, being a better teammate and just like investing into guys more than what I did. So that was really the only regret that I had, was that I didn't connect with more people in my time. But outside of that, I had no regrets with my career at UCO, and was glad that I was able to end the way that it did.
Now I do have to ask, because that's just been sitting on me for 3 years now. Whenever you walked off the field, like after you win the locker room, you came out and all that stuff. After you were walking toward the locker room that last time, I remember you were like jogging off. You got to between the bronze Bronco and the door to the locker room. I remember you stopped and you did like several full pan looks around the stadium. And I remember like at some point, just big smile just erupted on your face, and you kind of like nodded, and then you trotted off into the locker room. What was going through your mind at that point? What was it? Was it just more of like a taking it all in for one last time, or was it more of like, I can't believe this is how this ended in a stadium that looks like this, and all the bells and whistles. Like what kind of was that moment?
I think it was really just more of like jobs finished, like job well done. I think one of the very like particular things that like I've harped on and like really made it a point in my career was that no one should ever feel as though I gave up or I didn't ever give it my all. And there was definitely times in, college and in high school where obviously season not going the way you want it to go. It's hard. Practices are tough. It's hard, and obviously when you're struggling to find wins, things are not going good around you. And so one of the things that I've always told myself was no one will ever be able to say that I didn't give my all or that they felt as though I checked out. And so I think that was one thing I really try to harp on with, the younger guys was you can't wait until it's your senior year, your junior year to really start caring and like start really, giving it your all, because at that point it's fake. And then two, it's like you're already years behind really trying to care. And so really just kind of taking things in and just remembering how right there was like that was, you know, first workout coming in, and that like the very first workout I had, and that being like my welcome to college moment, because things were just way harder than what it ever was. Running sprints, I was getting beat by our third string punter. Like I remember after that workout, like I sat in the truck for an hour and a half and really just like contemplate on whether or not I wanted to keep playing football. And then you just start thinking about all the moments that you did think about quitting, because everyone has them. Like that's kind of normal part of the game, and just kind of going through like the what if, like what if I didn't stick it through, or like at that point what if I did decide to quit, or like what if, and just being not only at peace but knowing for sure that I made the right decision to keep on playing and to stick things out. And that, because at first I wasn't going to come back for the 6 year, but kind of how the 5th year win, just kind of talking things over, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And also Johnny Bazell was really one of the big reasons why I did come back, and just knowing for sure that it was the right decision that I made to come back and to have things end on that, besides how 2021 ended.
Yeah, and I feel, and that's why I always say I always hold that 2022 group in high regard, especially those seniors, because there really was no incentive for you all to come back. Like it wasn't like you were coming back to play, with the same group of guys because a lot of them decided not to use their extra year. It wasn't like you were coming back to play for the same staff because they all were gone. So it was like there really was almost no incentive for you all to really come back, and you did come back. And not only did you come back, but you bought into a new staff so quickly that you was able to turn around. You were able to kickstart the turnaround of a program. And so to me, like that legacy is set in stone. And when I looked at the list of seniors that are walking on Saturday, there were a few that were freshmen on that team. There was Dom, there's Jalen Cottrell, there's Connor Johnson. Those were guys that were youngins on that team, and so I find it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny that like here they are, their senior year, it's kind of in a similar spot where, okay, postseason might be out of the equation, but they can still do something that has been done in a while, and that's post at least back to back winning seasons. And with some luck, we could finish third in the MIAA. What what would your message be to not only those guys, but to the seniors as a whole as they approach not only senior day, but just their last eight quarters of football? What kind of advice would you give them as they head down the home stretch of their careers here?
Stay in the moment and take it all in because there's truly nothing like football once you're done with it. I mean, you can go join like slow pitch softball leagues, you can go join men's basketball leagues, like you can get into all sorts of leagues after you're done. You can even get into flag football, but there's nothing like the locker room, the bus rides, being with the guys, fighting and struggling with them, the lifting weights, the early mornings, just the amount of time, effort, and sacrifice that is required of football. You're not going to find it anywhere else. I would say take the life lessons that you learned from football and really stick to them because that's what's going to set you apart once you get into the real world versus being in the structure of organized sports and things like that. Um, just really, I mean, it's kind of too late to say it, but it's like really invest in, the people because that's going to be the things that you remember the most. It's like, yeah, you're going to remember, cool plays or, some of the wins and the big time moments, that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's really just going to be the people and the time that was spent with them that you remember the most. So really just take it all in. Um, I would say, you know, impart wisdom onto the younger guys. I think that was one thing I did was, I, you know, brought them along and I didn't like withhold anything from them. Like I would, tell them little tips and tricks that I learned from my older guys or just things I learned from playing and stuff like that. But just while you're departing from the program, just impart and give back as much as you can because it's going to be returned with people's appreciation and gratitude for you once your playing days are done. And so it's like at some point, seasons end, records are going to be broken. It's going to be a distant memory at one point, but the relationships is what's really is going to last with football. And so that's the one thing that I'm probably most grateful for is the relationships and experiences I got to have with some of the guys because I have very few, friends from high school left, but majority of my friends and the men that are gonna be groomsmen in my wedding, those guys I'm still in contact with throughout life. Most of them are from my college football teams, not high school or anywhere else. So really just, enjoy the time you have left with guys because it it comes too soon, but when you start looking at things, it's been a long time coming for a lot of them. So really just appreciate them and just let it be known how grateful you are.
Well, that senior day game is Saturday, 1 p.m. kickoff. I think it's supposed to be like 74 degrees. So, I mean, that's probably about as best you can ask for a senior day game in early November. So, I know I plan to be there. I believe Daunte plans to be there. As always, if you see us before or after during the game, please feel free to stop. I intend to try to do like I did um, every year that I've done this and tried to personally thank the seniors after the game. So I'll be on the field probably extra long because it's the last home game. So you don't get there's no more for another year, which so you gotta take it all in. So but no, I'm looking forward to it. I do like our chances. I'm hoping we get an Emporia level performance. We just come out there and we just blow them out. But Missouri Southern's not going to lie down for us. And again, they have nothing to lose here. But I'm hoping that we can send the seniors outright, and we have a nice end to the home season inside Richardson Stadium. So looking forward to it there. Dante, I don't know if you saw your former teammate Rob Fuentes. He signed with Arena Team in Minnesota. He's still chasing that dream, and that's the cool part, right? Guys like him and Trayvon are still out there either plying their trade or chasing their dream, and it's and that's always cool. I know that's especially for Rob, man. This is like his third arena team, but it's still going, which I feel like if you know Rob, that's not really surprising. I feel like it's going to take a lot to keep Rob from trying. Like you're gonna have to seriously strain this man. You're not gonna stop Rob. You're not gonna stop Rob. I think Rob would run through a brick wall. I go back to he played that with that cast on his hand, and Rob was doing more with one healthy arm than some guys do with two. So it's gonna take a lot to stop Rob, um, but yeah, no, I mean it's always cool. It's always cool seeing that. But just before we get out of here, Dante, got any kind of final thoughts you want to share here before we wrap it up?
I think first off, yeah, it is pretty cool that I still have teammates still playing and I support both of them. I actually have T Craig's jersey up in my closet, but yeah, I always try to watch a couple of their games, tune in to how they're doing and the competition that they're playing. T Craig over there in Japan, he's doing a really good job. I think it's his third year with the same team over there, and Rob him playing arena. I mean, that guy was high energy and high strung while I played with him, so it doesn't surprise me that he still has enough to carry on past a collegiate career. And he was a guy that just absolutely had a love for the game and a passion and a drive for it. So it's no surprise that those are the two guys that are still playing from my playing days. But yeah, so I'm always happy that they're able to have success past college because again, the percentage of guys that are able to do that, no matter what level it is, it's very slim to none. So I'm always happy for those guys. But really, outside of that, yeah, just throw away the past 2 weeks. It has no bearings on the future at this point. Uh, just do what you can to get a win on senior day.
Well, all right, that's that. I think that should be the message. That should be the goal. If they said it for nothing more than for those seniors that they at least can walk off the field the last time at home winners and at least have that to hang their hats on. So we're hoping for a good outcome there Saturday. We was out there Trayvon Craig. He gets among the league leaders in interceptions over there for like a third straight year. So shout out there to Trayvon Craig. But yeah, Duncan and I look forward to being there Saturday. So again, if you see us, feel free to talk because it's probably the last time you might see us for a year. So like I don't know. I mean, there's no more home games after this. So it's like kind of now or never there. So like I said, I'll hang back a little bit later because I'm sure it's always a lot heavier more for senior day. So, but I'm looking forward to it again. That is a 1 p.m. kickoff. I believe gates open at like probably 11:30. I'm guessing, but looking forward to it. Good weather there. So, Hopefully, we'll be back next week, barring any unforeseen internet issues. So we will try to get that back to our weekly thing. So until that time, I'm Jonathan Goudeau, aka JG Smooth. This is all UC from UCO All MIAA back, Daunte McGee. We will talk to you all next week.